story of young, powerful black man who was given 24 hours to live by his op. Tyjon Bush, 22 years old at the time of his death, was shot to death in the Dan Ryan Expressway, I-94, near 80th Chatham neighborhood South Side on July 11, 2024. Just like many kids in Chicago, coming from low-income household trying making life, TJ starting playing with Big Gun at very young age. He comes from very loving family.
It's all about somebody named 10-6. They was also like snakes or something like that.
Dude, now. Come on, we gone.
Cause I didn't know it was. The fans spammed it though. I got like 10 people asking.
They cool. You know, Snake Gun, it's all love, it's Cobra love. CL, man, we love all the Cobras, all the next unit, unified family, man.
TJ has gun wounds, then he was transported to a local hospital and pronounced dead. The circumstances of the shooting were not immediately clear. The investigation is ongoing. I-94 northbound is shut down and traffic is being diverted at 87th as police and first responders work the scene. That was just trailer. I'm not here to waste your time. Let's get started with the story. Born Tyjon Bush, better known in Chicago street circles as TJ, was a well-known figure associated with a faction of the Mickey Cobras, MC, known as the 800 Set. This group, infamous for its deep involvement in the city's notorious gang conflicts, originated in the Woodlawn neighborhood on the south side, primarily centered around the now demolished Grove Park Plaza Apartments complex, an area that underwent significant urban redevelopment between 2012 and 2015. The 800 contingent gained significant notoriety for various high-profile incidents. A notable associate of TJ, identified as 800 Fats, was reportedly involved in a particularly disturbing event, a shooting at the funeral of a rival figure, Dusky the Man, which caused widespread panic in the casket.
There is so much gunfire in her neighborhood, the kids at her daycare, 2 to 6 years old, already know to duck when they hear shots. And police say they heard a barrage of shots just after noon. They were coming from across the street at a funeral for a local musician known as Dusky the Man was letting out. His real name is Van Treese Christ. He was killed by gunfire earlier this month. Witnesses today heard a couple of shots at first, apparently fired into the crowd. Then many more, several dozen more shots.
Melly of 05 Young Money was attendance of the mourners and was right next to Wooski that he was returning fire to 800 shooters accidentally hit Wooski. Think about his wound. It's a graze wound on his temple. It makes more sense somebody right behind him hit him accidentally. During a very dangerous and famous shootout in the streets of Chicago, a man named Wooski was shot. He was a very important member of the STL, EBT, and Hottyway groups. The bullet hit him directly in the head, which was a terrible injury. Even though it seemed impossible, he survived the shooting, but his life was never the same again. The injury caused him to lose a lot of his memory, and it changed how he acted and talked. This event was a sad and major turning point for him. I will talk about all the details and how this changed his life in the new 800-story video series that is coming out soon. After that violent day, things got even worse when 800 Fats decided to make the situation more tense. He put out a mean diss track song that made fun of the sad things that happened at Dusky the Man's funeral. This was very disrespectful and made their enemies even angrier. Right now, I am making a special part of the video to look closely at this event. I will also explain the difficult and dark histories of other people in the 800 group. This will help show how their own personal problems lead to the big wars they have with other groups outside. One interesting thing about these groups is the way they choose their names. Many famous people in this world have nicknames that end with the letter ski. This has become a very common trend in the Chicago drill music scene. Some good examples are Wooski from STLEBT, Dooski from MOB, and Lewski from Hattyway, who is actually Wooski's brother. Another famous one was OTF Newski. Even though these men hate each other and are rivals, their names show that they all come from the same street culture and share the same kind of background. The 800 set is different from almost every other gang because they have a huge list of enemies. Many people on the internet feel sorry for them and say they are just kids from bad neighborhoods who want a better life. However, the truth on the street is that they seem to like the fighting. The 800 group is known for being chaos agents who start fights and beef on purpose just because they like the trouble. They are basically at war with almost every part of Chicago and have over 30 different rival groups. Even though everyone hates them and they fight the whole city, they have only lost about 4 members. This shows they are very aggressive and stay strong in dangerous areas. Deceased members are Pyro, which occurred May 27 in 2016, Franco, which occurred Sept. 07 in 2020, Boss Smooth, which occurred October 11 in 2020, and last one 800 TJ, which occurred July 11 in 2024. I often find myself wondering how members of the 800 group are able to stay alive while constantly being at war with some of the most dangerous and well-established gangs in Chicago. The level of pressure they face is extreme, and it seems almost impossible for a group of their size and age range to survive for long under these conditions. They are surrounded by enemies on all sides, fighting multiple conflicts at once, and statistically the odds are completely stacked against them. In situations like this, most groups eventually collapse or suffer heavy losses, yet 800 has managed to hold on longer than expected. One of the most striking aspects of 800 is how young many of its members are. They are often referred to as shorties, a term usually used for younger or lower-ranking members, but in reality, many of them are not just affiliates. They are active participants in violence. Some are known shooters or killers, which makes the group especially dangerous despite its youth. Members associated with 800 include individuals such as 800 TJ, who was recently killed, along with names like 800 Twan, 800 Marlowe, 800 Stevo, and 800 Brandon. Even the leaders of the group, such as 800 Lil Fats and 800 Lil Twin, are only around 20 or 21 years old. Despite their young age, they are still recruiting and influencing others, pulling even younger members into an already chaotic and violent environment. At the moment, 800 Lil Fats is incarcerated. He and 800 Lil Twan, whose real name is Antoine Montgomery, were charged with first-degree murder stemming from a 2021 incident. Prosecutors allege that the two were involved in the killing of armored truck driver LaShonda Hartz during a robbery, while another guard was seriously wounded. That case brought major attention to the group and further intensified law enforcement pressure on 800, adding legal threats on top of their street-level conflicts. What makes 800's current situation even more surprising is that the group was not always surrounded by enemies. At one point, they were considered cool, or at least neutral, with several well-known Chicago factions. These included Gyro City, STL, 051 Young Money, MO, Geodrive, 079 Face World, and MTG 039. Even today, there are still lingering personal relationships from those former alliances. For example, some members of 051 Young Money reportedly remain on good terms with 800 Lil Prince, who is frequently seen around the siblings of Melly and Wu, showing that not every bridge has been completely burned on a personal level. However, those alliances eventually collapsed for a number of reasons. One major factor was 051 Young Money aligning themselves with TYMB and Dro City, who are among 800's main enemies. This alliance was reportedly influenced by family ties, which made the situation even more complicated. Another major incident involved the alleged betrayal and killing of a man named Curry during a gun deal, which further damaged trust between groups. Tensions escalated even more after an accidental shooting at a party, where 800 members reportedly killed Bobby from Jarrow City following a fight that spiraled out of control. Additional conflicts followed soon after. Mob Domo killed Pyro, a member of 800, after an argument that reportedly began during a dice game. Domo was connected not only to MOB, but also to Wooga World, which further expanded the list of groups now hostile toward 800. While many alliances collapsed, it's worth noting that 800 was never friendly with Brick Squad, so that rivalry existed independently of the others. Despite having more than 40 different groups rumored to be actively hunting them, 800 has only lost around 4 confirmed members over the years, which is extremely unusual given the scale of their conflicts. Most groups facing that many enemies would have suffered devastating losses by now. This raises questions about how they've managed to survive for as long as they have, whether through strategy, luck, or sheer unpredictability. One of the most significant recent losses for 800 was the death of Tyjon TJ Bush in 2024. TJ was considered a major and active member of the group. Months before his death, he was seen in videos listening to music made by G. Kane, the man who would later be accused of killing him. The situation escalated publicly on July 10, 2024, when TJ posted an Instagram message mocking G. Kane and claiming he had stolen his gun. That same day, G. Kane went live on Instagram and issued a direct threat, stating that TJ had only 24 hours left to live. Less than a day later, on July 11, 2024, at approximately 5:15 p.m., TJ was riding as a passenger in a vehicle traveling on the Dan Ryan Expressway near 75th Street. According to reports, G. Kane pulled alongside in a Chrysler 300, leaned out of the vehicle, and opened fire using a Draco-style rifle, fatally shooting TJ. The attack was swift and public, taking place on a busy expressway in broad daylight. What made the incident even more shocking was what followed. Less than 10 minutes after the shooting, G. Kane allegedly posted a video online holding the same firearm used in the attack, boasting about what he had done. The post quickly spread, turning TJ's death into another highly publicized example of how social media has become deeply intertwined with modern street conflicts. Overall, the story of 800 is one marked by youth rapid escalation, broken alliances, and constant danger. Their ability to survive while surrounded by enemies remains one of the most puzzling aspects of their history, especially as losses continue to mount, and the pressure from both rivals and law enforcement grows heavier with each passing year. G. Kane, No Love City, Hood Vlogs, 800 Baby Spaz TJ, took his switch, then dead in 24 hours. Diss. G. Kane stood on his word. It cost him his freedom. Vicious cycle. After TJ death, he start to make diss the 800 TJ after his death and talk about TJ Pack, which is the most disrespectful thing one can talk about dead op. It's more like saying I smoke or kill TJ. He then also made diss song towards 800 TJ called Mr. 24 with official music video. In April 2025, G. Kane, also known as Mr. 24 Hours, was arrested in Texas on a murder charge, bringing a major chapter of this ongoing street saga closer to a legal conclusion. His arrest marked a dramatic fall after months of online threats, public taunting, and real-world violence that played out almost like a grim warning of how fast street conflicts can spiral out of control. Adding another eerie layer to the situation, it appears that a member known as THF Twin from THF 46 was killed on the very same day as 800 TJ. Twin was reportedly shot in the neck and shoulder while inside a house located in grimy gang territory. He died at the scene, making him the third THF loss of 2024. The timing alone shocked many people, reinforcing the sense that violence was erupting everywhere at once, with no pause and no mercy. One of the wildest things about this entire situation is how openly it played out on the internet. G. Kane initially told TJ he had 24 hours, then later adjusted it to 48 hours, seemingly to avoid sounding too arrogant or reckless. Still, the fact that real deaths followed those words makes the situation feel unreal. It's one of those moments where reality becomes stranger and darker than anything art, music, or movies could ever portray. Life truly ended up being crazier than fiction. The concept of backdooring plays a major role in how everything unfolded. Backdooring, pretending to be cool with someone while secretly planning to rob, harm, or kill them, is one of the most hated but common practices in modern street culture. What makes this case especially insane is that the people involved were allegedly hanging out together, sharing spaces, and possibly knowing each other's locations, routines, cars, and safe spots. To betray someone who close is dangerous on every level, and the retaliation, or get back, came extremely fast. Backdooring has become disturbingly normalized among younger generations. Sometimes it's done over money, jealousy, pride, or revenge, and other times there isn't even a clear reason, just temptation, unresolved anger, or ego. Instead of addressing conflict directly, people choose deception, which almost always leads to irreversible consequences. Lil Mike from 650 was reportedly closer to G. Kane than TJ was at first. However, once he saw how TJ was living and moving, he allegedly brought TJ around more. At some point, TJ took G. Kane's gun and reportedly told him to come get it. That moment appears to have been a major turning point. From the outside, it looks like Lil Mike may have wanted to backdoor G. Kane himself, but either lacked the nerve or didn't have anyone willing to help him go through with it. In the end, that decision arguably put both himself and TJ in danger. They underestimated the wrong person and assumed G. Kane was sweet, which turned out to be a fatal mistake. On the day Lil Mike and 800 TJ took G. Kane's gun, they allegedly mocked and taunted him on live video, adding fuel to an already raging fire. That public humiliation only escalated the situation further. Eventually, karma came back around in the harshest way possible. TJ was killed. Lil Mike was shot in the head, losing one of his eyes but surviving, and G. Kane ended up locked up, possibly facing life behind bars. No one walked away a winner. This situation perfectly sums up the reality of gang life. G. Kane is now booked and may never come home. TJ is gone forever. Lil Mike survived, but with permanent damage and trauma. Entire families are grieving, and entire neighborhoods are left dealing with the aftermath. As the saying goes, in the streets, there are only two endings: death or prison. Living every day with a target on your back has to be a miserable existence. You can't move freely, can't trust people around you, and often can't even hold a normal job because someone is always watching or waiting. Even the people society might label as winning in the streets have suffered major losses. There are no true victories, only temporary survival. Hopefully, people still caught up in street life can look at stories like this and learn something from them. The cycle never ends well, and the price is always higher than anyone expects. Fast forward. G. Kane and Ball No Love, allegedly booked for TJ murder. Everyone deserves justice in theory, but it's hard not to notice how backwards things look in reality. Some of the coldest, most ruthless killers end up having their cases solved quickly, while people you'd expect real accountability for never see their cases go anywhere. It's wild how often that happens. Meanwhile, situations where you think justice would be demanded, like TFTP getting shot down right in front of his kids, end up going cold with no answers, no arrests, and no closure. At the same time, it's complicated, because TFTP wasn't innocent either. His death was tragic and extreme, but he also played his part in the same cycle. He made the Bus Stop song mocking Lil Mark and Tuka, who were both killed at a bus stop, using their deaths as material to taunt and disrespect the dead. That kind of dissing has been normalized in Chicago for years, but it keeps the hatred alive. It makes you sit back and wonder when or if this cycle will ever end. According to Lil Law, the two people responsible for killing THF-TP were eventually taken out themselves. He even rapped "Long Live Two Pistols Them, Can't Speak No More," suggesting both shooters were no longer alive because of TP's death. However, THF Kino tells a different story, claiming that only one of TP's killers is dead and the other is still breathing. What everyone agrees on is that TP was done extremely dirty. He was shot so many times that it shocked even people used to street violence. Opposing sides deny any of it, saying nobody was touched in retaliation for TP at all. That's how it always goes. One side claims get back, the other side calls it cap, and the truth stays buried somewhere in between. Online rumors suggest the main shooter was allegedly Man from Bashville. Man was reportedly one of the shooters and was later killed by DOD and THF, which would mean only one of the attackers is actually dead. Life really isn't fair, and the way law enforcement operates only adds to that feeling. Sometimes it seems like CPD allows certain individuals to keep causing chaos. Look at how King Von kept beating cases, or how Q50 continues to walk free. Q50 was literally caught on camera during a felony where his friend died in the middle of it. People like Vert and others should be sitting in prison for murder, yet they're not. To CPD, it often feels like a numbers game. Lil Speedy reportedly beat 3 bodies, while others get picked up immediately for far less. That's what makes this whole situation with Mr. 24 Hours so crazy. It's almost like he told on himself for attention, chasing clout that didn't even turn into money. What makes it worse is that 800 TJ was cool with those guys not long before everything went left. In reality, you're more likely to get taken out by someone who knows your daily routine, your habits, and your locations than by a longtime enemy. Familiarity is more dangerous than beef. Something about TJ's death feels strange. Not necessarily unexpected, but unusual. You rarely see someone talk so recklessly online about killing someone, then actually follow through with it. TJ and Die Y spent years going live, throwing threats around like, "I'm gonna kill you," and nothing ever came of it. But the moment TJ robbed someone from a group he didn't even have real beef with, the situation ended immediately. TJ did have a history with those guys, though. They weren't strangers. They had been hanging out, and they'd known Lil Mike for years. That connection is what made it easy for TJ to get caught slipping so fast. There was trust there at one point, and that's what made the betrayal deadly. They were cool, but that day TJ took his gun, and after that, everything changed. No more jokes, no more Instagram lives, no more laughing things off. Situations like this should remind everyone that nobody is untouchable. No matter how protected you feel, nobody is bulletproof. There are many lessons we can learn from this story, especially when we look closely at the real people involved, TJ, G. Kane, Lil Mike, and others, and how their choices, emotions, and environments pushed events toward an unavoidable ending. First lesson: social media turned TJ and G. Kane's conflict into a countdown. What happened between TJ and G. Kane shows how social media can transform tension into a public execution timeline. When TJ mocked G. Kane online and G. Kane responded with a 24 hours threat, the situation crossed a dangerous line. At that point, it wasn't just pride anymore. It became a challenge in front of thousands of people. Backing down would have looked like weakness, and the internet doesn't allow grace or second chances. Social media trapped both of them in an ego-driven standoff that ended in real bloodshed. Second lesson: TJ was safest around enemies, but vulnerable around people he trusted. TJ didn't get killed by someone he had a long-standing active war with. He was taken out by someone who knew how he moved, who he was with, and where he'd likely be. That's the danger of familiarity. G. Kane knew TJ's lifestyle, and Lil Mike's long-term connection to both sides created an opening. When people know your patterns, your comfort becomes your weakness. Third lesson: backdooring created a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. When TJ and Lil Mike allegedly took G. Kane's gun and embarrassed him publicly, that wasn't just a robbery, it was betrayal layered with humiliation. Backdooring doesn't end conflict, it multiplies it. G. Kane wasn't just robbed, he was disrespected in front of the world. That kind of humiliation demands retaliation in street culture, and once it happened, the response was inevitable and immediate. Fourth lesson: clout destroyed TJ and imprisoned G. Kane. Neither TJ nor G. Kane gained anything meaningful from the attention. TJ lost his life. G. Kane lost his freedom and now faces the possibility of spending decades or life behind bars. All the Instagram lives, threats, and bragging didn't lead to money, safety, or status. It led to death in prison. Clout didn't protect either of them. It exposed them. Fifth lesson. Lil Mike's role shows how fear and hesitation can still ruin lives. Lil Mike didn't pull the trigger, but his involvement had devastating consequences. Whether he was scared, indecisive, or trying to play both sides, his actions helped set the stage. In the end, he survived, but at the cost of losing an eye and carrying trauma forever. His story proves that even indirect involvement can permanently alter your life. Survival doesn't erase responsibility or pain. Sixth lesson. G. Kane's response shows how pride overrides logic. G. Kane could have walked away after losing the gun, but pride wouldn't allow it. Being embarrassed publicly cut deeper than the loss itself. His decision to respond violently shows how ego can overpower survival instincts. Instead of choosing patience or distance, he chose immediate revenge, and now his future is controlled by courts and prison walls. Seventh lesson. TJ underestimated how fast consequences could arrive. TJ had years of online threats, lives, and beefs that never turned fatal. That history may have made him feel untouchable, but this time was different. He crossed someone who wasn't just talking. TJ's mistake wasn't just robbing the wrong person, it was assuming every situation would end the way previous ones had. The streets don't warn you when the rules change. Eighth lesson. The streets punished everyone, not just the target. TJ died. G. Kane got locked up. Lil Mike was permanently injured. Families lost sons. Communities absorbed more trauma. Even people who weren't directly involved paid the price, emotionally and mentally. The streets never isolate damage to one person. They spread it across everyone connected. Ninth lesson. Youth amplified recklessness on all sides. Most of the people involved were barely in their early 20s. At that age, emotions are intense, pride is fragile, and long-term thinking is weak. Decisions were made in moments of anger and adrenaline that erased entire futures. This wasn't wisdom versus evil, it was immaturity mixed with access to violence. 10th lesson. TJ and G. Kane proved nobody is invincible. TJ had confidence, movement, and connections. G. Kane had boldness and fearlessness. None of it mattered in the end. One is dead, the other is locked up. No reputation, weapon, or following makes anyone bulletproof. Once trust breaks and ego takes control, survival becomes a gamble. My final thoughts. This story isn't about who was tougher or who got the last say. It's about how fast life collapses when pride, clout, and betrayal mix. TJ, G. Kane, and everyone around them were young men with futures that ended or were permanently altered over decisions that lasted minutes. The streets offered them identity, but demanded everything in return. If there's one truth this story makes clear, it's this. The streets don't reward loyalty, bravery, or respect. They collect lives and time. Chicago is the only city where you find strange people who be shooting mourners in the funerals, peeing on ops graves, one-eye shooters, dissing the diseased, all the bunch of crazy breeds. You will find them in Chicago. As a young black man, I wonder why waste so much potential chasing death or jail. There's so many other ways to make money or whatever admire to do. God bless all of you. To those who heartbreakingly lost their lives, may they rest in eternal peace. No words can fully mend such deep sorrow, but may their memory be cherished with love and their impact live on in the hearts they touched. May those grieving find comfort, the wounded find healing, and the departed find serenity. As we come to the close of this video, I want to take a moment to say, I'll be reading every one of your comments. Your thoughts, emotions, and reflections truly matter. They hold real meaning. Before we finish, I have a small request. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment encouraging young people to choose peace over violence, not just in Chicago, but throughout the country. I also invite you to share a message of condolence or support in the comments for the victims, their families, and everyone affected by these tragic losses. As this video ends, know that I'm genuinely looking forward to reading each and every comment. Your words matter.